I stood frozen in my parents' garage, staring at the empty spaces where my tools should have been. My mother sipped her coffee casually. We sold them for Tyler's tuition yesterday. You live under our roof. You'll contribute. The specialized router ED saved for 3 years to buy. My hand, carved chisels from my mentor. The vintage lathe I spent 6 months restoring. $15,000 of professional woodworking equipment, collected over 8 years. Gone. They acted like they'd borrowed milk. I said nothing. Walked upstairs. Packed everything. By dawn, their workshop would be completely empty. The silence in the kitchen that Saturday morning felt heavier than any wood I'd ever carved. The hand, carved chisels that mentor Joe left me when he died. The vintage Delta lathe I spent 6 months restoring. You're 28 years old, Mom said, her tone suggesting I was the one being unreasonable. Still living at home, using our garage for your hobby. It's time you contributed to this family. Hobby. The word came out sharp. I run a carpentry business. I make $45,000 a year. I pay you $800 in rent every month, buy my own food, pay my own bills. And Tyler's going to be a lawyer, Dad said, as if that explained everything. His education is an investment in this family's future. Tyler finally looked up from his phone, and I noticed his new watch, Rolex. At least $5,000. His shirt had the subtle logo of some designer brand I didn't recognize. His shoes were fresh out of the box, probably $600 at least. I needed the money for networking events, Tyler said, not quite meeting my eyes. You know how important connections are in law school. You knew, I said, the realization hitting me like a hammer to the chest. You knew they were going to take my tools. He shrugged, the gesture so casual it made my hands shake. Dad asked me which ones you actually used for work. I told him you could probably manage without most of them. You don't know anything about my work, I said. You've never even held a hammer. Actually, Mom said, reaching into the folder she always kept by her coffee cup. Since we're discussing contributions to this family, I've prepared something for you. She slid a piece of paper across the table. At the top, in her perfect schoolteacher handwriting, it read Parental Investment Recovery Plan. Below was an itemized list. 18 years of food, clothing, shelter, birthday parties, Christmas presents, school supplies, medical care, even gas money for driving me to soccer practice in middle school. At the bottom, circled in red, total due, $200,000. The tools were just the first payment, she said, smiling like she'd solved world hunger. We've been very generous, letting you live here so long without requiring proper reimbursement. I stared at the paper, then at my parents, then at Tyler, who was already back to his phone. These people who I'd called family had itemized my childhood. They'd put a price tag on raising me. There's more, Dad said. And I could tell he was enjoying this. The buyer is coming back tomorrow for your workbench, the one in the corner of the workshop. We promised it as part of the deal, the workbench my grandfather built, the one he taught me to sand on when I was 7 years old, the one he left to me specifically in his will, the one thing in that workshop that couldn't be replaced with money. Grandpa left that to me, I said quietly. Grandpa left it to the family, Dad corrected. And the family needs it now. Oh, Mom added, almost as an afterthought, we're changing the lock on your bedroom door tomorrow too. Tyler needs a proper home office for when he's back during semester breaks. You can move your things to the basement. I stood up slowly, folded the bill and put it in my pocket. They watched me, waiting for the explosion, the tears, the begging. Instead, I walked to the door, stopped, and turned back. The workshop, I said. You're selling things from my workshop to pay for Tyler's education. It's our workshop, Dad said firmly. Our house, our garage, our rules. I nodded once and walked upstairs to my room. Behind me, I heard Tyler laugh at something on his phone. Mom asked Dad what he wanted for lunch. The normal sounds of a Saturday morning in the Murphy house. As if they hadn't just shown me exactly what I was worth to them. Less than Tyler's networking events, less than his designer clothes, less than the image they wanted to project of successful parents with a lawyer son. I sat on my childhood bed and pulled out my phone. The group chat with my carpenter friends had 12 unread messages, all about a big hotel project coming up. I scrolled past them and found Sarah's number. Sarah, who owned a moving company, Sarah, who'd been telling me for years that family isn't always blood. Hey, I said when she answered. I need a favor. A big one. Tonight. Whatever you need, she said immediately. Because that's what real family does. I looked around my room at 8 years of life with people who'd just handed me a bill for existing. Bring the biggest truck you have. And maybe some extra hands. We're going to be moving a lot more than just boxes. By 10 that night, the house had settled into its usual Saturday routine. Dad was in the living room watching sports highlights, beer number 4 sweating on the coffee table without a coaster. Mom was in her craft room, probably working on another scrapbook documenting Tyler's achievements. Tyler himself had left around 8, mentioning something about meeting his study group at an expensive steakhouse downtown. I wondered if he'd be paying with money from my tools. I sat in my room, door locked, lights off, waiting. My phone buzzed softly on the nightstand. Sarah. Outside with the crew. Ready when you are. Id spent the afternoon taking inventory of everything that was actually mine in that workshop. Not just the tools they'd stolen, but everything Id built, installed, or paid for over the past 5 years. The list was longer than even I had realized. At 2 in the morning, I crept downstairs, avoiding the third step that creaked and the loose floorboard by the kitchen. The spare key to the workshop was where it always was, under the ceramic frog Mom thought was charming. I unlocked the door and let in Sarah and her team. 4 people who worked for her moving company, all of them friends from the construction community. Jesus, Allegra, Sarah whispered, looking around the workshop. You built all this. The space that had been a basic 2-car garage when I started was now a professional workshop. Custom pegboard covering every wall, integrated dust collection system, overhead LED lighting on tracks, reinforced steel shelving, specialized electrical outlets every 6 feet. The concrete floor had been sealed and painted with epoxy. Every improvement had been made with my hands, my money, my time. Everything, I said. And taking it all. We worked in silence, systematic and efficient. The pegboard came down first, revealing the original garage walls underneath, complete with the water stains and cracks my installation had hidden. The shelving units, built from scratch, were carefully disassembled, each piece labeled and wrapped. The overhead lighting tracks, which I'd installed after getting my electrician's license, came down next. Allegra. Marcus, one of Sarah's crew, called softly from the corner. You need to see this. He was holding a small camera, the kind you could buy on Amazon for $50. It had been hidden behind one of my tool holders, positioned to watch the entire workshop. There are more, he said. I've found 3 so far. We found 7 total, all connected to a recording system, hidden in the rafters. I pulled up the laptop that controlled them, not even password protected because they never thought I'd find them. The footage went back 6 months. Hours and hours of me working, often alone, sometimes talking to myself as I figured out project problems, and the login history showed Tyler accessing the system regularly from his phone. Your brother's been watching you, Sarah asked, disgust clear in her voice. Look at this, I said, opening Tyler's email on the laptop. Had been stupid enough to save his password. There were dozens of emails to his law school friends, promising custom furniture from his family's workshop, complete with photos of my completed projects that he was claiming as his own work. Other emails to our parents, discussing converting the workshop into a rental unit once they convinced Allegra to move out. They were planning this, Sarah said, reading over my shoulder. This whole thing with the tools, it was just to force you out. I downloaded everything to a flash drive, then kept searching. In a hidden folder on the desktop, I found building permits, applications for commercial zoning changes, even a draft lease agreement, all filed without my knowledge, even though I was listed as the primary occupant of the workshop space for tax purposes. Keep working, I told the crew. I need to check something. In the back corner of the workshop, behind the water heater, there was a loose panel I'd noticed years ago but never bothered to fix. I'd always felt a draft from there in winter. I pulled the panel away and found a small metal box, covered in dust and cobwebs. Inside, wrapped in plastic, was my grandmother's jewelry. The pearl necklace she wore to church every Sunday. The diamond ring Grandpa gave her for their 40th anniversary. The gold bracelet she promised me when I was 10 years old. Mom said it was lost. I whispered to Sarah, who'd followed me. When Grandma died 3 years ago, Mom said she must have donated it all to charity without telling anyone. Your mom lied about your dead grandmother's jewelry. Sarah's voice was hard. That's low, even for them. I put the jewelry in my pocket and went back to work. We took everything. The workbench Grandpa built came apart into 6 pieces, each one carefully wrapped and labeled. The custom electrical panels ID installed to handle the workshop's power needs were replaced with the original, outdated ones ID kept in storage. The reinforced flooring ID laid over the original concrete came up in sections, revealing the cracked, oil-stained surface underneath. By 5 in the morning, we were almost done. The workshop looked like it had 5 years ago. A dirty, badly lit garage with water stains on the walls and cracks in the floor. You sure about this? Sarah asked as we loaded the last of the shelving into her truck. This is going to cause a nuclear meltdown. I looked at the empty space, then at the house where my parents were still sleeping, comfortable in their certainty that I would never fight back, never stand up for myself, never be worth as much as their precious son. I'm sure, I said, but there's one more thing. I went back inside and up to my room one last time. Everything I owned was already in Sarah's truck except for one thing. I took the itemized bill Mom had given me, wrote paid in full across it in red marker, and left it centered on my empty bed. Then I walked out of my parents' house for the last time, got in Sarah's truck, and didn't look back. Where to? Sarah asked as we pulled away. That apartment above your warehouse, I said. The one you've been trying to rent out. I'll take it. It's yours, she said. First month free while you get set up. As we drove toward my new life, my phone started buzzing with work messages. The hotel project had been approved. They wanted to meet Monday to discuss custom furniture for 40 rooms. They'd asked for me specifically. Had seen my work at the boutique shops downtown. You know what the ironic part is, I said to Sarah as the sun started to rise. I've been saving money for 5 years. $45,000 in an account they don't even know exists. I could have left any time. I stayed because I thought they were family. Family doesn't sell your livelihood for their favorite child's designer clothes, Sarah said. Family doesn't charge you for being born. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Tyler. Study group went great. Thanks for understanding about the tools, sis. Family helps family, right? I deleted the message without responding. In about an hour, he and our parents would understand exactly how much this family member had been helping them, and how much they'd just lost. 6:17 a.m. I knew the exact time because Sarah and I were sitting in her truck outside a 24-hour diner, drinking coffee and waiting. My phone was face, up on the dashboard, volume turned high. We'd been up all night, but adrenaline and anticipation kept us wide awake. How long do you think before he notices? Sarah asked, checking her watch. Dad always checks the workshop on Sunday mornings, I said. He likes to plan his week, pretend he's going to start projects he'll never finish. Must be nice, Sarah said, having a fully equipped workshop you never use while your daughter builds her career in it. At 6:23, my phone exploded. The ringtone it assigned to my father years ago and never changed filled the truck. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Who emptied the entire workshop overnight? His scream was so loud Sarah could hear it clearly. Allegra, what did you do? Good morning to you too, Dad, I said calmly. Don't you dare act casual. The workshop is empty. The walls are bare. The floor is ripped up. Even the electrical panels are gone. I took my things, I said. You made it very clear yesterday that I needed to contribute to the family. So I contributed all my belongings to my new life. Your things. He was still screaming. I heard Mom's voice in the background, confused and getting increasingly shrill as he apparently explained the situation. That workshop belongs to this house. You had no right. Actually, I said, pulling out the folder of documents I'd prepared months ago. Just in case, I have receipts for everything. $13,000 in electrical upgrades, filed with the city under my contractor's license. $8,000 in custom shelving and organization systems, $6,000 for the flooring, $4,000 for the lighting, all purchased by me, installed by me, registered to my business. You can't do this. We have a buyer coming for the workbench in an hour. Grandpa's workbench, I asked. The one he specifically left to me in his will? The one I have documented proof of ownership for? That workbench. There was silence for a moment. Then Mom's voice. Closer now. She must have grabbed the phone. Allegra Murphy. You return everything right now. You're being a selfish child. Tyler needs our support to succeed. Check my room, Mom, I said. I left you something on the bed. I heard footsteps, running, then silence, then a shriek that probably woke the entire neighborhood. Paid in full, Mom screamed. You think this is funny? You think destroying your family is funny? I'm not destroying anything, I said. I'm just refusing to be destroyed. There's a difference. Tyler's voice joined the chaos then. He must have come running from his room. Where's the workshop? I promised my fraternity brothers custom furniture. I showed them pictures. I told them about our family business. Your family business. I laughed. Actually laughed. Tyler, you don't even know the difference between pine and oak. You've never held a tool in your life except to pose for Instagram photos. The cameras. Dad suddenly shouted. We have cameras. We can prove you stole from us. The cameras that were illegally recording me without my consent? I asked. The ones connected to Tyler's phone so he could watch me work and steal my techniques for his fake resume? Those cameras? Yeah. I have all that footage now. And the emails. And the plans to convert my legal workspace into a rental without telling me. The doorbell rang on their end. I heard Dad cursing, Mom trying to shush him, Tyler panicking. That'll be your buyer, I said. The one you promised Grandpa's workbench to. Better explain why you're selling stolen goods. It's not stolen, Dad protested, but his voice was losing its edge, uncertainty creeping in. The pawn shop, Mom suddenly said. Well, call the pawn shop. They have your tools. My phone beeped with another call. Unknown number. Hold that thought, I said, and switched calls. Is this Allegra Murphy? The voice was official, stern. Yes, I said, switching to speaker so Sarah could hear. This is Detective Johnson with the Columbus Police Department. We need to speak with you about some tools that were sold to Friendly Pawn on Broad Street. The serial numbers match items reported stolen from various construction sites over the past year. My stomach dropped. Stolen? But those were my tools. My parents sold them without my permission, but I purchased them legally. I have receipts. Mom, I'm not saying you stole them, but someone did, and then sold them to you. We're investigating a ring of construction site thefts. The tools have been confiscated as evidence. The pawn shop is cooperating fully. They've provided us with the information of who sold them the tools yesterday. My parents, I said quietly. Robert and Linda Murphy. Yes, ma'am. Well, need to speak with them as well. And ma'am, if you have receipts showing you purchased these tools, even from illegitimate sources, you may be able to file for compensation as a victim of fraud. Thank you, Detective. I said and hung up. I switched back to my parents' call. They were arguing with someone at the door, presumably the buyer. Dad, I said loudly, you might want to stop arguing with that person and call a lawyer. The police are about to show up. What? His voice went from angry to afraid. Why would the police? Turns out the tools you sold were stolen goods. I'd been buying them from a guy who was selling them cheap, then returning them to their rightful owners when I could track them down. I was building a case to report to the police. But you just made yourselves the sellers of stolen goods. Good luck explaining that. $8,000, a new voice said in the background. Must be the buyer. The boy owes me $8,000. I was told this workshop would cover it. Tyler owes someone $8,000. I asked, loud enough for everyone to hear. For what, Tyler? What does a law student need with $8,000 in debt to someone who comes to collect on Sunday mornings? It's nothing, Tyler said quickly. Just a misunderstanding. A loan for books and stuff. Books, the buyer's voice said flatly. Sure, books. Look, I don't care about your family drama. $8,000 by tomorrow or I go to his dean. Your boy's been living large on credit he can't cover. Designer clothes, fancy dinners, bottle service at clubs, even been betting on games, losing bad. Gambling. Mom's voice was faint. Tyler, you've been gambling. It's not gambling, Tyler protested. It's investing in social experiences. You don't understand what law school is like. I heard a door slam. The buyer had left. Then sirens in the distance, getting closer. Allegra. Dad's voice was different now. Smaller. We need to talk about this, as a family. We did talk, I said. Yesterday, you made it very clear where I stand in this family. Below Tyler. Below his networking events. Below his designer clothes. Below his gambling debts, apparently. We didn't know about the gambling, Mom said weakly. You didn't know about a lot of things, I said. You didn't know I had my own savings. You didn't know I was building a reputation in this city. You didn't know I was already planning to expand my business. You didn't know because you never asked. You never cared. I was just the daughter who should be grateful and quiet and sacrifice everything for your precious son. The sirens were right outside their house now. I could hear them through the phone. Please, Dad said. Come home. Well, figure this out. I am home, I said, looking at Sarah, who nodded and smiled. My new home. With my real family. The one I chose. But we're your parents, Mom said, crying now. No, I said. You're the people who gave me a bill for raising me. You're the people who sold my future for Tyler's present. You're the people who hid cameras to spy on me and planned to steal my workspace. You're Tyler's parents. You made that crystal clear. Someone knocked on their door. Loud. Authoritative. Police. I have to go, Dad said. Yeah, I said. You do. And Dad? That itemized bill Mom made? Might want to keep it. Could be evidence of extortion. I hung up. Sarah and I sat in silence for a moment. Then she started the truck. Breakfast, she asked. Breakfast, I agreed. And then we build my new workshop. My real workshop. From scratch. The right way. With no one watching over my shoulder or planning to steal it. My phone buzzed. Tyler. This is all your fault. I deleted his message and blocked his number. Then I did the same for my parents' numbers. For the first time in my life, I was truly free. 2 weeks into my new life, I was installing the last of the electrical outlets in the warehouse workshop when my business phone rang. The caller ID showed Columbus Law School. I almost didn't answer, thinking Tyler was trying to reach me through his school. But curiosity won. Miss Murphy? This is Dean Richardson from Columbus Law. I'm calling about your proposal for the library renovation. I set down my drill. My proposal. Yes. The comprehensive plan you submitted for renovating our East Wing library. Your portfolio was impressive, especially the sustainable materials approach and the custom furniture designs. When can you come in to discuss the contract? Dean Richardson, I said slowly, I didn't submit a proposal to your school. There was a pause. But we have. Tyler Murphy said you were partners in Murphy Custom Carpentry. He submitted everything under your contractor's license. Said you were handling the practical side while he managed the business aspects. Tyler is my brother, I said carefully. We are not partners. He has no authority to use my contractor's license, and I've never seen this proposal. Oh dear, the dean said. This is complicated. Mr. Murphy assured us repeatedly that this was a family business. Has been telling faculty and students that has been working construction since he was 16. It's part of why he received his scholarship, actually. His essay about working with his hands while pursuing law was quite moving. Dean Richardson. I said, Tyler has never worked construction a day in his life. I'd be happy to submit a real proposal for your library, but I need you to know that anything Tyler told you about our supposed partnership is false. I see. Miss Murphy, would you be able to come to my office tomorrow? I think we need to discuss this in person. And perhaps you should bring any documentation about your business ownership. After I hung up, I called Sarah. You're not going to believe this. The next morning, I walked into Columbus Law School wearing my best business outfit, carrying a folder thick with documentation. The dean's office was exactly what you'd expect. Dark wood, leather chairs, diplomas covering the walls. But Dean Richardson himself was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 40s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Miss Murphy, he said after I'd shown him my business registration, contractor's license, and proof that Tyler had no connection to my work. This is serious. Your brother has been falsifying his experience for his entire application. That's grounds for immediate expulsion. I'm not here to get Tyler expelled, I said. I'm here to protect my business and reputation. Fair enough. But I do have one question. Would you actually be interested in the library job? Because your portfolio, the real one I looked up after our call yesterday, is exceptional. How much are we talking? I asked. 70. $5,000 for the full renovation, including custom furniture for the study areas. I managed to keep my expression professional, but inside I was screaming. That was more than I'd made all of last year. I'm very interested. Excellent. There is one complication. Your parents have been calling the school, claiming you stole from them and that they own part of your business. They're threatening to sue us if we hire you. I pulled out another folder. Receipts for every tool I own. Business registration in my name only, filed 3 years ago. Tax returns showing I've been operating independently. And this, I placed a printed email on his desk, is from their lawyer backing off all claims after I threatened to sue for theft, fraud, and extortion. He read it, eyebrows rising. Extortion. They tried to charge me for my childhood. Literally, gave me an itemized bill for raising me. That's. He paused. Unusual. That's one word for it. Dean Richardson stood up. The job is yours if you want it. Can you start next month? I can start whenever you need me. As I left his office, Tyler was waiting in the hallway. He looked terrible. The designer clothes were gone, replaced with a wrinkled shirt and jeans that had seen better days. His face was pale, dark circles under his eyes. Allegra, he started. No, I said and kept walking. Please. He grabbed my arm. I looked at his hand, then at his face, and he let go immediately. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry about the tools, about the cameras, about everything. You're sorry you got caught, I said. They expelled me, he said quietly. This morning. The dean called me in and told me I was done. Academic dishonesty, they said. Falsifying credentials. You did falsify credentials. It was just creative writing. Everyone exaggerates on applications. You claim to have experience you don't have, Tyler. You used my contractor's license without permission. That's not exaggeration, it's fraud. What am I supposed to do now? His voice cracked. Mom and Dad are broke. They had to pay back the pawn shop, pay that guy my debt, pay for a lawyer. They're talking about selling the house. Get a job, I said. Learn a skill. Take responsibility for once in your life. Easy for you to say, he sneered, some of his old attitude returning. You always had Grandpa teaching you stuff. You were always his favorite. Grandpa offered to teach you too, I reminded him. Every summer, he asked if you wanted to learn. You always said woodworking was beneath you, because Mom and Dad said. He stopped. Said what? Said it wasn't appropriate for someone who was going to be a professional. Said you were only learning because you weren't smart enough for college. I stared at him. I have a degree in business management, Tyler. I graduated with honors while working full-time. What? You didn't know because you never asked. None of you ever asked about my life, my goals, my achievements. You were all too busy planning Tyler's amazing future. My phone buzzed. Sarah. 3 more clients called. Word is spreading about the law school job. We need to hire help. I have to go, I told Tyler. I have a business to run. Allegra, wait. He pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. It's Mom. She wanted me to give you this. I took the paper. It was a check for $3,000. For the tools was written in the memo line. That's all they got from the pawn shop, Tyler said. She wanted you to have it back. This doesn't fix anything, I said. I know, but it's all they have left. I looked at the check, then tore it in half and handed the pieces back to him. I don't want their money. I want them to understand that I'm not their backup plan or their savings account or their sacrificial lamb. I'm a person who deserved better. As I walked away, Tyler called out one more time. The guy at the hardware store said they're hiring. He said if I mentioned your name, he'd give me a chance. I stopped but didn't turn around. McMahon's Hardware. Yeah. Tell Jeff I sent you. Show up on time. Work hard. Don't lie about what you know. Learn everything you can. Why would you help me? I'm not helping you, I said. I'm helping Jeff. He needs reliable workers. Whether you become one is up to you. That afternoon, I signed the contract with Columbus Law School and hired my first 2 employees, both women from my old neighborhood who'd been told construction wasn't for them. I paid them $5 more per hour than the going rate and promised to teach them everything I knew. 3 days later, the IRS called. Turns out, it'd been right about the workshop. Since it'd been paying taxes on it as a business space for 3 years, I was legally considered a commercial tenant. My parents owed me 3 years of back rent. How much? I asked the agent. At the standard commercial rate for that square footage in that area? $36,000. Plus penalties and interest. I could have pursued it. Could have forced them to sell the house to pay me. Instead, I had my lawyer send them a letter. Forgive the debt, leave me alone forever, and we're done. Sign it and walk away, or I'd pursue every legal option available. They signed it the same day. 1 month later, I was reviewing blueprints for the law school library when someone knocked on my workshop door. It was past 7 p.m. on a Thursday, Sarah had gone home, and my 2 new employees, Jessica and Maria, had left an hour ago. I looked through the security camera ID installed and saw my mother standing outside, alone. She looked different. The perfectly styled hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her usual designer outfit was replaced with jeans and an old sweatshirt. She was holding a manila envelope and shifting from foot to foot like she was cold, though it was a warm September evening. I debated not answering, but something in her posture made me open the door. Allegra, she said, and her voice was smaller than I'd ever heard it. Can I come in? Why? I need to tell you something. Things you should have known years ago. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She looked around the workshop, taking in the organization, the quality tools, the projects in various stages of completion. This is impressive, she said softly. It's mine, I said. Actually mine. No one can sell it, steal it, or give it away. She flinched but nodded. You have every right to be angry. I'm not angry anymore, I said, and realized it was true. I'm just done. Please, she said. Let me explain. Not to excuse what we did, but so you understand. I gestured to a stool, but remained standing myself, arms crossed. Tyler isn't your father's son, she said quietly. He's the product of an affair I had 29 years ago. Your father found out when Tyler was 2. He said he'd stay, raise Tyler as his own. But there were conditions. Conditions! I repeated flatly. Tyler had to be the priority. Always. Your father said if he was going to raise another man's child, that child had to be worth it. Had to be successful. Had to carry on the family name with honor. She laughed bitterly. Family name. As if Murphy was something special. So you sacrificed me to keep your marriage. I said. I sacrificed you to keep our family together. She corrected, as if that was better. Your father said he'd leave if Tyler didn't succeed. Take you with him. I'd lose everything. Instead, you just lost me. I know. Tears were running down her face now. But there's more. The reason I'm here. She opened the manila envelope and pulled out papers. You weren't supposed to find out like this. I took the papers, confused. They were adoption records. My adoption records. What is this? Your biological father has been looking for you, Mom said. His name is James Patterson. Hess. He's a contractor in Michigan. Has been for 30 years. I stared at the papers. Birth certificate, adoption agreement, and a letter, dated 20 years ago, unopened. Has been sending letters, Mom continued. Money too? For your education, your future. We kept the money. Used it for Tyler's schooling. The room spun. I sat down hard on the nearest stool. You stole money meant for me and gave it to Tyler. $50,000 over 18 years, she whispered. Your father said it was only fair since we were raising you. My father, I said slowly. Which one? The one who sold my tools or the one you stole from? James never knew we kept the money. He thought you were getting it. He thought you knew about him and chose not to contact him. Get out, I said quietly. Allegra, get out. I stood up, knocking the stool over. You stole my tools, my workspace, my childhood, my grandmother's jewelry. And now I find out you stole my biological father too? You stole $50,000 meant for me. I'm trying to make it right, she said desperately. James is in town. He wants to meet you. I told him everything. You had no right to tell him anything, I said. He's staying at the Marriott downtown, room 412. He'll be there all week, hoping you'll come. She set down a business card. Patterson Custom Builds. He's very successful. 3 crews, major contracts all over Michigan. I picked up the card. The logo was beautiful, clean, professional. Everything I was building toward. Why now? I asked. Why tell me now? Because your father, Robert, he's been gambling. For years. That's where Tyler learned it. The house is gone. We're moving in with my sister in Florida, and I couldn't leave without telling you the truth. Dad's gambling? This whole time he acted so righteous, so superior, and he's been gambling. Where do you think Tyler's tuition money really went? Mom said bitterly. Robert lost it at the casino. The tool money was to cover his losses so the bookie wouldn't come after him. Tyler's $8,000 debt? That was to pay off Robert's marker at the same bookie. Everything clicked into place. The favoritism, the desperation, the cruelty. It was all about money and secrets and lies. Does Tyler know? About not being Dad's son. We told him last week. He didn't take it well. How did he take it? He got drunk, crashed his car into a mailbox, and got arrested for DUI. He's in jail until his hearing next week. We can't afford bail. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The golden child, the favorite, the future lawyer, sitting in jail while his parents fled to Florida. There's one more thing, Mom said, reaching into the envelope again. She pulled out a small jewelry box. Your grandmother's wedding ring, the real one. I kept it separate from the others. She opened it. The ring was simple, elegant, a small diamond in an antique gold setting. Grandma had worn it every day for 60 years. She wanted you to have it, Mom said. Specifically, you. She told me before she died that you were the only one who understood the value of things made with love and patience. I took the ring, slipped it onto my right hand. It fit perfectly. I know you'll never forgive me, Mom said, standing to leave, but I wanted you to know that I do love you. I just loved my secrets more. And that's something you'll have to live with. You're not going to believe what just happened. At this point, she said, I'd believe anything about your family. My dad isn't my dad. My brother isn't my full brother. I'm adopted. And my biological father is a successful contractor who's been trying to find me for 20 years. Okay, Sarah said after a pause. I didn't see that coming. Oh, and Tyler's in jail for DUI. That I could have predicted. Sarah? What do I do? You meet your bio dad. You see if he's worth knowing. You keep building your business. You live your life. You don't let any of them pull you back into their drama. That's simple. Also, you should probably hire a therapist because this is a lot to process. She was right. About all of it. That night, I worked on the law school furniture until 3 a.m., losing myself in the grain of the wood, the precision of the joints, the satisfaction of creating something beautiful and lasting. When I finally went to bed, I was exhausted but calm. Tomorrow would bring whatever it brought. But tonight, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. In my own space, building my own future, with my grandmother's ring on my hand and no one else's expectations weighing me down. 3 months had passed since that night Mom told me the truth. 3 months of the most intense, challenging, and ultimately rewarding period of my life. I stood in my expanded workshop, now 3 times its original size, watching my team of 8 employees working on various projects. The law school library job had led to 3 more institutional contracts. Patterson Custom Builds, my biological father's company, had partnered with us for a major hotel renovation. And today, we were closing on something I'd never imagined possible. You sure about this? James asked, standing beside me. In the 3 months since we'd met, had become not just my biological father but my mentor and business partner. Tall, broad, shouldered, with hands scarred from 30 years of building, he was everything Robert had never been. Honest, hardworking, and genuinely proud of me. I'm sure, I said, looking at the purchase agreement in my hand. The doorbell chimed, and my lawyer walked in with the bank representative. Behind them, looking defeated and small, were Robert and Linda Murphy, my parents, or the people who'd raised me. Let's get this over with, Robert muttered, not meeting my eyes. We sat around the conference table I'd built myself, solid oak with perfect joints that would last a century. The bank representative spread out the papers. As we discussed, the lawyer began, Miss Murphy is purchasing the property at 243 Maple Street for $175,000, which is below market value but reflects the necessary repairs and the seller's urgent need to close. My childhood home, the house where I'd learned I was worth less than Tyler's networking events. Now, it would be mine. Sign here, the bank representative told my parents. Linda's hand shook as she signed. Robert just looked angry. Still. After everything. And Miss Murphy, your signature's here. I signed carefully, deliberately. When I finished, the house was mine. The rental agreement. My lawyer continued, sliding another set of papers across the table. Miss Murphy has agreed to rent the property back to you for $1,000 per month, with first and last month due at signing. We don't have $2,000, Robert said flatly. Then you have 30 days to vacate, the lawyer said simply. Wait, Linda said desperately. Allegra, please. I pulled out my checkbook and wrote a check for $2,000, sliding it across the table. This covers your first 2 months. After that, rent is due on the 1st. 1 day late, and you're out. Why? Robert asked, finally looking at me. Why are you doing this? Because Grandma would want me to, I said. Because despite everything, you're in your 60s with no savings, no assets, and nowhere to go. Because I'm not you. There are conditions, my lawyer added, sliding another paper across. Mr. Murphy must attend weekly gambling addiction counseling. Proof of attendance must be provided monthly. Mrs. Murphy must provide 20 hours per month of administrative assistance to Miss Murphy's business, applied against the rent. And Tyler Murphy, when released, must work 40 hours per month for Murphy Custom Carpentry at minimum wage, also applied against the rent. Tyler's not here, Linda said quietly. Hess, still in jail. I finished. I know. His hearing is tomorrow. I've arranged for a lawyer. You what? Robert's head snapped up. Not a good lawyer, I clarified, but competent enough to get him community service instead of jail time. That community service will be served teaching basic carpentry skills at the women's shelter downtown. I've already arranged it with the judge. Why would you help him? Linda asked. I'm not helping him. I'm helping the women at that shelter who need to learn trade skills. Tyler can either teach them what he learns from me, or he can go back to jail. His choice. My phone buzzed. Sarah texted, Local news is here. We need to wrap this up, I said. I have a press conference. Press conference? Robert asked. We're announcing the Patterson Murphy Training Center, a program to teach construction and carpentry skills to women leaving domestic violence situations. Fully funded by the profits from our current contracts. Free tools, free training, job placement assistance. James stood up, proud. We're starting with 20 students. Allegra will be the lead instructor. You're using our name for this, Robert asked. My name, I corrected. Murphy is my name. I built my reputation with it, and now I am using it to help women who were told they weren't worth as much as the men in their lives. Seems appropriate, doesn't it? We walked out to meet the press, leaving my parents with their rental agreement and their subsidized second chance. The news crews were set up in the main workshop, my employees arranging themselves behind the podium we'd built. Thank you for coming, I began, looking into the cameras. 1 year ago, I was told I was worth less than my brother's education. My tools were sold, my work dismissed, my contributions minimized. Today, I stand here as the owner of Murphy Custom Carpentry, partner in Patterson Murphy Enterprises, and founder of the Patterson Murphy Training Center. I held up a set of tools. New ones. Better than what had been stolen. These tools represent more than just equipment. They represent independence, skill, and the ability to build your own future. Starting next month, we'll be providing these tools, free of charge, to 20 women who've been told they can't, they shouldn't, or they're not worth it. The reporters asked questions, took pictures, celebrated the feel-good story of a woman overcoming family betrayal to help others. But the best part came after, when Tyler walked in, escorted by a court officer. He looked different. 3 months in jail had stripped away his arrogance, his designer clothes, his certainty that the world owed him success. He was thin, pale, wearing donated clothes that didn't quite fit, reporting for work. He told me quietly. Workshop's in the back, I said. Jessica will teach you how to use a saw. Listen to her. She knows what she's doing. Allegra, he said, stopping me as I turned to go. I read about what you're doing. The training center. It's amazing. It's necessary. I corrected. I want to help. Really help. Not just for the community service. Then learn. Work. Prove that you're worth teaching. And Tyler, if you lie once, even about something small, you're done. No second chances. He nodded and went to find Jessica. Hootie started as one of my first employees and was now a crew leader. The next morning, the news coverage was everywhere. Local woman turns family betrayal into opportunity for others. From stolen tools to teaching trade. The workshop that sexism built. My phone rang constantly. New clients, mostly, but also women asking about the program, contractors offering to donate tools, even a call from a national morning show wanting to interview me. But the call that mattered most came that evening, as I was closing up the shop. Allegra. The voice was familiar but different. Softer. It's Mom. Linda. What do you need? I wanted to thank you. For the house. For giving us a chance. You're paying rent. It's not charity. No, but it's more than we deserve. She paused. I've been thinking about what you said. About being worth less. I did that to you. I taught you that you were worth less than Tyler, less than our image, less than keeping secrets. And I was wrong. So wrong. Okay. I want to help. Really help. Not just the 20 hours of admin work. I want to volunteer for the training center. I was good at teaching once, before I got lost in my own lies. Well, see. I said. Start with the admin work. Prove you can show up. Then we'll talk. 6 months later, at the first graduation ceremony of the Patterson Murphy Training Center, 20 women stood in their work clothes, holding certificates and tool sets, ready to start their apprenticeships with various contractors throughout the city. Linda Murphy stood among the volunteers, having spent 3 months teaching math and measurement to the students. Robert was there too, 6 months sober, working as a janitor at the center to earn his way. Tyler spoke at the ceremony, not as the golden child or the future lawyer, but as someone who'd learned humility the hard way. I spent my whole life believing I was entitled to success, he said. My sister taught me that success is earned, one honest day's work at a time. These graduates have earned their success. They've proved their worth investing in. James stood beside me as the graduates received their certificates. Your grandmother would be proud, he said. I touched the ring on my finger, the one thing from my old life that still felt right. She knew, I said. Somehow, she knew I'd need to build my own family. Sarah appeared at my other side, my business partner, my chosen sister, the one who'd been there when everyone else had failed me. Ready for the announcement? She asked. I nodded and took the podium one more time. Before we close, I have one more announcement. Patterson Murphy Enterprises has just been awarded the contract to build the new Women's Business Center downtown. It's a $10 million project, and we'll be prioritizing graduates from this program for the construction crew. The room erupted in cheers. 20 women who'd been told they couldn't, they shouldn't, they weren't worth it, now seeing a future where they could build literally anything. 1 year after that first graduation ceremony, I stood in the completed Women's Business Center, a building that my company, my crews, my graduates had built from foundation to roof. The morning sun streamed through the windows, wet installed, illuminating the custom woodwork that bore the signature of 23 different women carpenters. Today wasn't just another day. It was the 2-year anniversary of the morning I'd discovered my tools were gone, and we were celebrating it in the most perfect way possible, announcing the expansion of the Patterson Murphy Training Center to 3 more cities. The main conference room was packed. Current students, graduates now working full time in construction, contractors who'd hired our graduates, media representatives, and yes, my family, all of them. Robert sat in the 3rd row, wearing a Patterson Murphy Enterprises polo shirt he'd earned after a year of janitor work. He was 2 years sober, quieter than he'd ever been, working harder than I'd ever seen him work. Linda sat beside him, now our full-time education coordinator, having proven herself through hundreds of hours of volunteer work. She'd developed our math curriculum, and it was being adopted by trade schools throughout Ohio. Tyler stood at the side of the room with his crew. He was a foreman now, having worked his way up from knowing nothing to leading a team of 5. His hands were calloused, his designer clothes long gone, replaced with practical work gear. He'd paid off his debts, honest dollar by honest dollar, and had started dating Jessica, my first employee, who kept him humble and honest. James Patterson, my biological father, business partner, and the grandfather I'd never had all rolled into one, sat in the front row beaming with pride. Over these 2 years, Head taught me not just about construction but about forgiveness without forgetting, about building bridges while maintaining boundaries. And Sarah, my constant, my anchor, my chosen family, stood beside me at the podium as co-founder of everything Wed built. 2 years ago, I began, looking out at the assembled crowd. I lost everything I thought I had: my tools, my workshop, my family's respect. What I learned was that I hadn't lost anything real. The real tools weren't the ones that could be sold at a pawn shop. They were the skills in my hands, the knowledge in my mind, and the determination in my heart that said I was worth more than others believed. I paused, meeting Tyler's eyes. He nodded, understanding. Every person in this room has been told at some point that they weren't enough. Not smart enough. Not strong enough. Not male enough to work in construction. Not valuable enough to invest in. Not worth the tools, the training, or the time. I looked at my parents. Some of us were told this by the very people who should have believed in us most. Linda wiped tears from her eyes. Robert stared at his hands. But here is what I learned. Your worth isn't determined by other people's inability to see your value. When someone sells your tools, they can't sell your talent. When they dismiss your dreams, they don't diminish your ability. When they charge you for the space you take up in this world, remember that you've already paid in full just by being here, by persisting, by refusing to accept their evaluation of your worth. The room was silent, everyone listening intently. The morning my parents sold my tools, they thought they were teaching me a lesson about sacrifice and family obligation. They were right, just not in the way they intended. They taught me that family isn't about blood or obligation or sacrifice. It's about choosing to build each other up instead of tearing each other down. It's about recognizing that everyone's dreams have value, not just the ones that look impressive on paper. I gestured to the room around us. This building stands because 23 women picked up hammers and said I am worth teaching. It stands because contractors took chances on non-traditional candidates. It stands because a community decided that excluding half the population from an entire industry was a waste of talent and potential. Tyler stepped forward then, something planned between us. I'd like to say something, he said, his voice steady. For most of my life, I believed I was worth more than my sister because our parents told me so. I believed I deserved her tools, her sacrifice, her silence. I was wrong. Allegra's worth was never measured in what she could give me. It was measured in what she could build despite me. Despite our parents. Despite everyone who tried to convince her she was less than. He turned to face me directly. You could have destroyed us. When you had every legal and moral right to let us fail completely, you chose to rebuild us instead. That's not weakness. That's the kind of strength I didn't even know existed. You taught me that real power isn't in tearing down but in building up, even when the people you're building have tried to demolish you. Robert stood up then, unexpected and unplanned. His voice was rough, uncertain. I was a fool, he said simply. I sold my daughter's future for my son's present, and in the end, I nearly lost both of them. I gambled away money, respect, relationships, all for the chance at easy success. Allegra showed me that nothing worth having comes easy. Every dollar of rent I pay her, I earn by cleaning these buildings. Every meeting I attend for my addiction, I'm reminded that I chose poker chips over my daughter's dreams. If any parent out there is thinking of sacrificing one child for another, learn from my mistake. You'll end up with nothing but regret. Linda stood beside him, taking his hand. We charged our daughter for being born, she said, voice shaking. We itemized her childhood like a business transaction. We made her feel like a debt instead of a gift. Parents, your children don't owe you for raising them. You owe them love, support, and the belief that they're worth every investment you make in their future. James stepped up to the podium, putting his arm around my shoulders. I missed 28 years of my daughter's life, he said. But in the 2 years I've known her, I've watched her turn betrayal into business, pain into purpose, abandonment into achievement. She didn't just survive what happened to her. She transformed it into something that helps others survive too. Sarah took the microphone next. Allegra called me at 2 a.m., needing a truck to move her tools. I showed up because that's what real family does. No questions, no conditions, no bill attached. Sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the family you're born into. Sometimes the people who see your worth when you're at your lowest are the ones who deserve to celebrate your highest. I took the microphone back, my throat tight with emotion. Today, we announced the expansion of our program to Detroit, Chicago, and Cleveland. 3 more cities where women will learn that their hands are just as capable, their minds just as sharp, their dreams just as valid as anyone else's. 3 more places where tools won't be sold but shared, where workshops won't be stolen but built together, where worth isn't assigned by others but claimed by yourself. The room erupted in applause. As I looked out at the faces, I saw my story reflected in dozens of others. Women who'd been told construction was men's work. Parents who'd learned to support dreams they didn't understand. Siblings who'd discovered that success isn't a competition but a collaboration. After the celebration ended and the crowd dispersed, I stood in the workshop with my family, all of them, blood and chosen. The tools you sold. I said to Robert and Linda, they were just things, metal and wood and plastic. But what you really sold was my trust. That can't be bought back. We know, Linda said quietly. But trust can be rebuilt, I continued. Board by board, nail by nail, day by day. It will never be what it was, but maybe it can be something different, something more honest. Tyler held out a wooden box he'd been carrying. I made this, he said. It took me 6 months, and Jessica had to help me redo it 3 times, but I made it. I opened the box. Inside, nestled in velvet, were hand-forged carpenter's tools. Not expensive ones, not fancy ones, but tools made by my brother's own hands. A hammer, a chisel, a marking gauge. They're not the ones we sold, he said. They're not as good as what you lost, but they're yours. Made specifically for you, by someone who finally understands their value. I picked up the hammer, tested its weight. It was imperfect, the handle slightly rough, the head not quite symmetrical, but it was made with intention, with effort, with genuine care. Thank you, I said, and meant it. As we locked up the workshop that night, I thought about the girl it'd been 2 years ago, silent in the face of injustice, accepting less than I deserved because family was supposed to mean sacrifice. That girl had learned the hard way that sacrifice should be voluntary, not demanded. That family should build you up, not sell you off. That your worth isn't negotiable, no matter who's trying to haggle the price. The most important tools you possess can never be sold, stolen, or given away. They're the skills you develop, the knowledge you gain, the resilience you build, and the boundaries you set. When someone tries to take your tools, remember, they can only take what you allow them to take. Your true worth, your real power, lives in places they can never reach unless you hand them the key. I looked at my family, broken and rebuilt, at my business, thriving beyond my dreams, at my students, proving every day that talent has no gender. And I knew the truth. Sometimes the greatest gift someone can give you is showing you exactly how little they value you. Because that's when you finally stop asking for their approval and start building your own foundation. The workshop that was stolen from me became the blueprint for dozens of workshops built by women who'd been told they couldn't. The tools that were sold became the down payment on a future where no woman's dreams would be pawned for someone else's ambition. The family that betrayed me became the catalyst for creating a family of hundreds, all of us bound not by blood but by sawdust, sweat, and the absolute certainty that we are worth every single thing we build. To everyone watching this, listening to this story, know this. If someone in your life is telling you that you're worth less than someone else, they're not expressing a fact. They're revealing their own limitations. Your worth isn't up for debate, negotiation, or sale. It's inherent, immutable, and entirely yours to claim. So I'll leave you with a question to think about. Maybe share in the comments. What tools has someone tried to take from you, and what did you build with the ones they couldn't reach? What did you discover about your own worth when someone else tried to define it for you? Share your stories, because every time we tell them, we hand someone else the blueprint for building their own future. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. Like and subscribe if this story resonated with you. and please share it with anyone who needs to remember that their worth isn't determined by someone else's inability to see it. Until next time, keep building, keep believing, and keep remembering that the most important tools you have are the ones no one can ever take away.